Hi guys, it's Yogi here and welcome to Inspire Living. Now, it's a treat for me to introduce you to Divya Alter because we've been following her for a little while, and she is a great devotee, but she's also an amazing cook. And we're going to speak about her book, and many of you have seen her book. That's coming out the wrong way, but you can make it out. How to eat, what to eat, how you feel. And welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's a real honor and my great joy for me to be with you today. Thank you.
Yeah, so nice. I was reading through it before, and we've had this book for a while, and we've given it to many people and students, and they absolutely love it because one of the things they say is it makes everything so simple. Because when I'm teaching Ayurveda, for example, people are like, wow, so complicated. You've got to do so many things, so much commitment. And food is the one thing that everybody does, everybody eats every day. And that becomes a problem for them because they really want to adopt Ayurveda, but you've really made it simple, which is amazing. And your recipes are amazing too, which is wonderful because Ayurveda can be a little limiting when people don't know too much about it, because they feel like they've got to work out their own body first, and then they got to work out the food, and then they got to work out the mixtures. And so you've made it quite simple from the beginning. So how did you come to write the book?
Well, about the book, so we've been teaching Ayurvedic cooking classes here in New York City for the past 11 years. And I've created a lot of recipes. And many people would come back to classes, like they would take many classes. Some people would come every month to learn how to cook seasonal Ayurvedic for the year. And then regulars started complaining that we have this big folder of all your recipes and it's just so hard to find things, and just write a book, put it all together. So this is how I started thinking about the book. And at the right time, somehow, to me, it was one of those divine arrangements, when you try to do something and you feel that it's beyond you, and things start aligning and it just starts happening all of a sudden. So that's how I felt with the book journey. And at the right time, I met my literary agent, I met my publisher, I met my editors. It all came together. So it was very helpful.
So you also have a restaurant in New York City?
Yes, so the restaurant is the expansion of our cooking school. We were planning to move out of the building. So we are situated at the Bhakti Center. It is like a spiritual yoga center in Manhattan. And our classroom became too small, and we wanted to move out and find a bigger place. And then the restaurant space at the base of the Bhakti Center opened up, and they offered it to us. And we were like, all right, we can open the first authentic Ayurvedic restaurant in the city.
Nice.
So
very sweet.
Keeps us busy.
I'm sure it does. Well, one of the things I was reading in your book, which, many of the things that you obviously, and pretty much all that you practice really resonates with us because we follow the same system, is that your kitchen is a sacred place. Most people think about the kitchen as somewhere where they just go to the fridge, they pick something up, or they cook something up pretty quickly and then they leave. But the truth is that, if you go to a party, for example, most people just hang around in the kitchen, So traditionally, the kitchen draws everybody, but you're talking about it from being a sacred place. Tell us more about that.
Well, the concept of a sacred place started for me when I lived at the yoga ashram in Bulgaria and then in India later on. And that's how my journey with Ayurveda started, with yoga. I became an intern at an underground yoga ashram in Bulgaria. It was underground because it was still a communist country and everything spiritual was forbidden. But My service at the ashram was to wash pots and chop vegetables, and it was such an amazing experience because my seniors teachers told me, when you wash pots, just meditate how you're cleansing your mind. You're scrubbing the black of the pot and you're scrubbing the black of your mind. And I was like, wow. And then also we practiced silence in the sense of not talking unnecessarily. It's kind of a meditation to cook, and you presence yourself to the food. And we were practicing like cooking in the right consciousness, in a positive state of mind. And then the cleanliness standards just blew me away. How clean everything was. So the kitchen is really the heart of the home. This is where you prepare food that will nourish your family and everybody who eats it. It really supports everybody in their journey. And it also affects everybody's consciousness as well. So at the yoga ashram, this is what I learned. It is a sacred space. It is where you offer service to God and to others, and you prepare the food in the best state of mind possible, in the best surroundings possible, so that the food will have higher vibration that will not just fill your stomach, but also enlighten your consciousness.
So were you chanting when you were cooking?
I'm sorry?
Were you chanting when you're cooking?
Yes, or listening to kirtan, or so, or chanting either loud or in your mind. Sometimes it's, when you're doing things fast, I'm like, okay, keep my mouth shut so that I can focus on the food. But I would listen to chants, and I still do that. I like to be in silence when I cook, especially if I'm creating a recipe. It is like a very intuitive thing for me. It took me a while to learn how, because when I teach cooking classes, I have to talk. It took me a while to learn how to speak and explain what I'm doing as I'm cooking. But that's also fun to do as well.
I know it's a challenge because we're the same. We go inward. We do things a lot in silence, and we have to come out and do them.
Yes.
You have to force yourself. I know.
Yeah.
But cooking in silence, if somebody's alone, it's great. It really, chanting mantra, listening to mantra is amazing. Relationship with food. It's something that you speak about in your book. Can you tell us more about the relationship with food and how it should be?
Yeah, to me, food is really a relationship. So just like with people. So if you want to get to know somebody, you spend time with them. You get to know the qualities, their likes and dislikes, what they're, So with me, food initially, I was just, when I was young, I was just looking at food as something, oh yeah, I'm hungry, I have to eat, It wasn't like the focus of my life, or it wasn't something I was thinking about. It's just, when I'm hungry, I have to eat, and I'll just eat whatever is around me. So my real relationship with food started when, first of all, the ashram, but later on, I became sick when I was in India. I experienced some really bad digestive problems. I was drinking Ganga water without purifying it. It caused really bad digestive issues. And so at that time, this is when I met some of the first Ayurvedic doctors that I've met. And they told me, well, these foods are really good for you. So eat these foods, they will help you heal faster. You can digest them. They're the right foods for you. And these other foods, they're really good, but they're not the right foods for you right now. So this is how I started to, it's like, oh, wow, I have to be conscious of what I'm eating and how it makes me feel. So I was already a trained cook at the ashram, and I became really curious about how food can be used as medicine. And just like with people, if you want to get to know them, you spend time with them. The same time with food, I started studying the qualities of each ingredient, and what does it taste like, what does it do to your body, how it affects your doshas, or which season is best to have more of this particular food. So to me, it became like developing a relationship with this particular ingredient. And the other way I look at food is my life's companion. Talking about relationship.
Yeah.
Because this body is the gift we're given. This body is a gift to us. We're given this body to be the instrument to fulfill our mission in life, to learn our lessons, and to do what we're meant to do, what we want to do, and hopefully achieve some spiritual advancement as well. And it took me a while to start to respect my body that way, because also, as you know, the yogic perspective is, oh, we're not the body, we're much more than the body, right? So I was neglecting my body for a while, just focusing on that. But then I realized, no, the body is a sacred gift. In some yogic texts, it's called a temple of the soul. So respecting the body by choosing the right foods to support your journey. This is how food becomes a companion that supports your journey, rather than by keeping you healthy and nourished and energized, rather than eating the foods that go against our journey and making us sick and angry and whatever.
Like friends.
Like friends, yes.
Yeah, I always say you have to edit your friends or have them for certain moments, because all friends have great attributes, and you want to use those attributes as they need to use your good attributes. So food is the same thing. Some of it, like you said, may be amazing, but in that moment, in that season, at that time, may not be great for you. So it is like a friend. You know?
Yes.
I know. So is that why in your book you mention about health first? It's one of the very first things you talk about.
Yeah, taking care of our health, because, and I experienced this myself, I was very focused on my spiritual practice, neglecting my physical health. And when I became very sick, all of a sudden I was powerless. You know, I was in bed, whatever talents I have were gone. I couldn't do anything, and I didn't have energy. And when you're so sick, it's very easy to get depressed as well. And when and it's like, oh, what am I gonna eat? There were very few things that I could eat, and so yes. So health comes first, but not just for the sake of health. It's for the sake of service. So taking care of ourselves so that we can fulfill our own life tasks and then offer our contributions to the world.
To others. We cook many of your recipes. They're very spot on.
Really? Well, that's good.
They're very spot on. You know, most books you buy and things, you have to really change. You know, you have to really adapt, and you have to move things around. Your recipes are really thought out. Is this, you were talking about intuition before. How much of that is intuition, and how much is that really cooking the same thing 100 times?
Yes, well, both. So in terms of, so I've learned a lot about how to create Ayurvedic recipes from my main Ayurveda teacher. His name is Vaidya Ramakant Mishra, and I trained with him in the Shakavansya lineage of Ayurveda. It's like a very old lineage of Ayurveda, and he was a master Vaidya, or master doctor, but he was also an unbelievable cook. And I took all of his cooking classes and everything he was teaching. I learned pulse and marma from him and all that. But what really impressed me that unlike many Vaidyas, he spent so much time teaching us how to cook, like the actual skill of cooking with how many spices, what spices go with what, how do you balance the heating and the cooling properties, when do you put the turmeric in, like all these little very technical, very practical details of cooking. And this really inspired me. So that's at the base of the recipe creation. And then, yes, there was a lot of testing as well. And I would have at least 10 different people test each recipe. And I would have them, and most of them are my students. And there would be people in different parts of the country, also with different cooking skills, different cooking experience, a different age, because I really wanted to make my recipes accessible to everybody. And they would tell me, I cannot find taro root around here. It's like, and I'm like, okay, so I have to give an alternative. So yeah, that was very helpful, having recipe testers.
Yeah, you give a lot of alternatives, which is really useful because, like you just said, a lot of people don't have certain things, or they don't have access to them, or they can't find them, or maybe they don't like the taste.
Right.
But you really give so many different alternatives, which is great because they can turn something into a vegan recipe if they want to, rather than a non-vegan.
Yeah, and also the reason I also give variations is because I hope that my readers will understand that you can use this recipe as a base. So here you can come up with your own creation. If try with this ingredient or that ingredient with the same seasoning, it will come out really good as well. So you can come up with your own creations. Just make sure that you're following the food combinations for digestion. But because I really want to empower my readers to cook more Ayurvedic dishes at home, and not just follow a recipe, but understand the principles and come up with their own creations.
Yeah, something you mentioned, I was watching a piece you did, and you said, Ayurveda is not Indian cooking. It's a system of way of cooking based on the Indian science. That really is what people need to understand as well. It's not, because when they hear the word Ayurveda in India, they just automatically think, Indian cooking. But your book isn't about Indian cooking.
No, not at all. And modern Indian cooking is just so different than traditional Indian cooking. But we'll see. Ayurveda is a universal science. You can apply it anywhere in the world. So let's say, like I was born in Bulgaria. I grew up without any Indian spices. We didn't have turmeric until I was 20 years old. We didn't have Indian restaurants. I didn't grow up. I didn't know what Indian food was until I went to the ashram. But or you live in Italy, you can apply the Ayurvedic principles of food combinations, of proper preparation, and everything else to any kind of cuisine. So you don't have to limit yourself just to Indian cooking. So if you live anywhere in the world, you can cook the local dishes. You just have to adapt them to Ayurvedic principles of digestion.
Yeah, something that I also really is one of the hardest thing I think that when I'm teaching people is for them to understand combinations.
Yeah.
It's one of the hardest parts because they're not used to it. They never thought about, oh, well, I can't eat, salad and mix it with milk or with something else and all this kind of stuff, or fish and milk and things like that.
Yeah.
It's something that it's one of the obstacles I find in people. But when you read your recipes, for example, because they don't have to think about it, you've done the thinking for them.
Yes.
It's kind of it's a service you've done because it really takes out that aspect of it, which is quite difficult for people to grasp. Why? Because they've been eating fruit and yogurt for they grab a lot of this ready-made food
Mm.
in the supermarket. So they think, well, this has been there for years, so why is it not great? And Ayurveda comes along and says, well, these are not great and they're not good in this season, and it becomes complicated for people.
Yeah, exactly. And the way I explain it also is that, like, you can eat fruit and yogurt, or in French cooking, you serve some cheese and fruit at the end of the meal. But it causes a lot of, especially if you do this long term, it causes digestive problems or even allergies. And if you just stop doing this for even a week or two, you feel such a tremendous difference. And you realize, oh, wow, you know, it's true. Ayurveda works. I had a friend, she and her husband, they came to several cooking classes some years ago, and they told me, we're big cooking class fans. We go and take every possible cooking class in the city. So one time we spoke about food combinations, and this particular time she was completely congested. She had so much phlegm, and it was so bad that she said, I would just watch because I shouldn't cook. And it was allergic reaction. And so when we discussed how dairy and fruit is not a good combination, she said, oh, that's why. And I said, what? And she said, well, we went to this French cooking class, and they told us that in France, you eat like cottage cheese and fruit at the end of each meal. And we've been doing this for like a couple of years. And I asked her, so when did your allergic reaction started? And she said, well, around that time. So we just eat things habitually, and we like the bad food combinations, we eat them habitually, and we don't connect them to the digestive reactions that we experience in our body. But once you learn about it and you apply it, even for a couple of weeks, and you feel and you see the difference, it's like, oh wow, there's a lot of
yeah, that's what most people are used to, right? They eat cooking based on the country. But Ayurvedic science can be applied to all of it,
yeah,
as you said. And then that way you can still eat French food and Italian food and all the different foods, except you leave out the bits which are sort of detrimental to your health. Because in today's day, I'm seeing more and more people have allergies to so many different things.
it's insane.
It's insane. I mean, how many allergies do people have to so many different foods?
Yeah.
So,
and a lot of people have allergies they don't even know about yet. They're reacting to something, but they don't know yet. So, yeah, it's very difficult to stay healthy these days.
It is. It's very difficult.
It's really hard.
Well, we have so much modern things helping us these days, electronics and information and our internet, which is amazing. But on the other hand, we have so much more complication because of pollution.
Exactly.
That seems to be hindering everybody's health. You know, one of the things I teach in one of the courses I do is because we're in this situation, because years ago when I lived in France, for example, I didn't see people getting those issues. They were still eating cottage cheese and their things. They had some issues, but nothing, you know, compared to today. And I wonder how much does stress and pollution have to do with it? Because all of these, like Mediterranean diets, for example, have been known to be the healthiest, you know. But one of the things I notice is they don't eat a huge amount. They don't need a massive quantity.
Yeah.
So there is pollution and stress, which is one thing. But then I find that one of the things I teach people is eat less or eat the least you can, because ultimately, if you are going to get some problem, you'll get it less, or maybe you won't get it, you know, kind of like preventative medicine.
Yeah. But also with Mediterranean diets, they work for people who work in those regions, you know. And when you've lived there, you see how people are outdoors so much, and life is definitely a little bit less stressful, and then people just hang out and they spend time together, and the pace of life, and also being outside and this definitely has an effect. Here we spend so much time in air-conditioned buildings all year round, and we separate ourselves from the sun and from the moon. So it becomes, and then all the electromagnetic frequencies and radiation have tremendous effect. I'm really worried about this 5G coming up. So all of this affects our vibrational channels, our physical channels, and our health overall.
To what degree then do you think we should make, I know we touched upon it at the beginning, but make eating a spiritual experience rather than a physical experience or just a mental experience?
Well, see, it's the food we put in our body. That's the easiest thing to control. You know, we can really we can take control of our diet, what we eat, and also how we eat it. And the spiritual component comes not just in the food that we choose, the quality of the food, the ingredients, whether you choose to be a vegetarian or to eat meat, all of these things, but also how do you connect with the food? How do you eat? How do you honor your food when you're having a meal? That's a big piece of it, because as you know, and I'm sure you have workshops about this, is how to properly eat your food. So properly in the sense of sitting down, presencing ourselves to the food, looking at it, smelling it, connecting with it, chewing it, like eating in silence helps also, but really consciously, mindfully eating without rushing to fully experience our connection with food. And also when we eat like this, it nourishes not just the stomach, it also nourishes the mind. So at the end of the meal, we feel fully satisfied on every level. Yeah, we need support in this regard.
I know. I was listening to some people talk the other day at a restaurant, and they were saying how food is delivered to their house. So the more, I guess, people are eating out, the more they're delivering in. Even these guys were saying that everything was delivered to the house, and all you did was cook it. So it all came in the right thing. So we're trying to take the thinking out of everything. But the way you're describing food and the relationship to it and the cooking aspect of it and the ritual of it and this being sacred is really more of an experience in spirituality than it is in just cooking, right?
Yeah, and it helps us feel connected and aligned with nature as well. Like we feel like a part of the whole, rather than disconnecting ourselves from everything and just mindlessly doing things. It could be with eating, it could be also other things. So it has to be easy. Yeah, it has to be easy and less stressful, but at the same time helping us connect and feel connected with the food. That, like, I always, at the end when I cook, I always bless my food with mantras, and I, with a sense of gratitude, thanking for every living being who contributed to this meal today, because there's such a long chain of I mean, talk about people who bring the food to our table, but also the plants and the animals and the stars and the moon and the sun. So it is just so much energetic support for us to bring that food on the table. So feeling connected to all of that, it's nice.
Well, there's a lot of talk about having gratitude about these things, but I mean, the amount of people and earthly resources it takes to bring food to people's plate is, we do need to have gratitude for it. And it really needs to be a ritual of eating rather than we're just eating. Because so many people eat at their desk for lunch. One of the things I tell people to do is go outside, eat your lunch outside, and take some sun, because you're sitting at your desk and you're just manually eating. Now the food has no power in it, because you're not respecting it, and you're just wolfing it down and then working, or you're on your phone. So I think everybody's rushing around trying to get as many things done in one day, and food is becoming just enjoyment, but not as powerful as it needs to be, because we're just rushing through it sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
So your book talks about you break it up into morning, and then you break it up into summer and early fall, and then winter, going fall to winter.
Mm-hmm.
And you do that because of the seasonal changes?
So the recipes are divided into harvest seasons in the northern hemisphere. So you can also think of it of the Vata, Pitta, and Kapha seasons, but technically there are 4 harvest seasons. So the book teaches you how to cook seasonal ingredients and how to adjust each recipe according to the digestion you're experiencing this particular day. Because many people get confused. They think, oh, I'm a Vata Pitta dosha. My prakriti, my body type is Vata Pitta. So they always eat for their Vata, but let's say you're experiencing Pitta type of indigestion. You're having acidity or heartburn, or your digestive fire is really strong. You're hungry every 2 hours and you're not absorbing the nutrients. So you have to adjust the foods according to the type of digestion you're experiencing right now, not just the dosha. So the season, the dosha, your age, what you're going through, but also the easiest thing is just to connect with yourself and to say, oh, how am I feeling right now? So depending on what's going on in your body, especially your stomach, then you choose, oh, I need some Vata pacifying, some Pitta pacifying right now. So because I may be Vata Pitta, I may have a cold and have a total Kapha imbalance, you know, I'm totally congested. And so if I keep eating the sweet predominant foods for pacifying Vata and Pitta, I would be in trouble. So so how to cook seasonal ingredients and how to adjust the recipes for the digestion you're having today.
Yeah, how you feel which is the title of your book, has a lot to do with it. So really we should be feeling with the stomach and not eating so much with the brain and the mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always tell people the same thing, is put your hand on your stomach, see how you feel at this moment, and see what you need, not according to just your dosha and your element type, but to do with digestion first, and then obviously the weather and things like that, and your environment and what you're going through.
This is amazing advice. I'm going to tell our guests in the restaurant, hello, welcome, put your hand on the stomach.
They love it. I'm telling you, people, I do this course, and I'm like, put your hand on your stomach now, close your eyes, just takes 10 seconds. And what the title of your book, how do you feel? You know, eat for how you feel, not for how you think you feel, or how you were 10 minutes ago when you thought about eating pasta, for example. And they really connect with that, because they suddenly realize, oh yeah, maybe I'm not feeling as great, or I'm really hungry, or I'm not as hungry as I thought I was. So it really helps them out, because the title of your book really stuck out for us, because most things say all the aspects of Ayurveda, but you're basically saying apply Ayurvedic science, but don't take yourself out of it. Put yourself in it based on how you are in the present moment. Yeah, amazing. So let's see. I mean, you have so many: golden beet and green bean salad. We've had that. That's amazing. Oh yeah, here's a mixed vegetable curry and cashew sauce.
This is the best-selling dish at our restaurant.
Really?
People love this dish, yes.
Yeah, that's the best-selling dish in our house as well. I love that. Well, I love when I go to India eating korma. because we don't really cook it in the house. But this is like a korma, except it's done with cashew sauce.
Yeah, I have a very nice korma recipe as well. I
Oh
should
yeah.
publish it in my blog. Yeah.
Ah, good. We'll look it up. I know J-Marf, she follows your blog and picks out stuff from there.
Oh, yeah, I'm about to publish a new recipe. I've been very busy, so I couldn't. I have a bunch of things in progress, so I should be able to publish
How
it.
long does it take you really from start to finish to create a recipe? Just so people
Yeah, it
know the
depends.
amount of work that goes into it.
It depends on the dish. Baking recipes, like I have this sugar-free cake. Hopefully, I have time today to publish it today. Let's see. But baking takes a little longer to test because people use different types of flour. So even if, let's say, I call for spelt flour, I mill the spelt flour fresh. I have a grain mill. I make fresh spelt flour. I do that at home, but most people will buy it from the store.
Sure.
So I have to test the recipes with several store-bought brands of spelt flour and make sure that it works, because every flour is different.
Sure.
Even if it's spelt flour, but the way it's milled, it is just different. So I have to test them to make sure that it works. And for example, there is a recipe that I'm going to publish as soon as the episode is published. We filmed an episode for a PBS show called Lucky Chow. It should come out at the end of this month or maybe next month. And the topic was food and beauty. And they invited me to be an Ayurvedic chef and talk about the Ayurvedic perspective of using food for beauty. So they asked me to create a dish, and I created a dish that it's broccoli rabe and beets. It's sauteed broccoli rabe and beets. And I explained how these two vegetables, and then the spices we use, the turmeric and all that, these two vegetables help cleanse the liver, which purifies the blood, and this makes your skin glow. So you have a beautiful skin if your liver and your blood are clean.
Yes.
So this recipe took me about, honestly, I put this recipe very quickly because it's just vegetables, so it's easier. But the recipe testing took about 2 weeks. I sent it to different people. They sent me feedback.
Yeah.
So
It's a lot because people are asking for recipes all the time, and they don't realize it takes time to put a recipe together and test it out like the way you are. And it's a lot of work. It's 2 or 3 weeks of work.
Yeah. I really like the recipes to work so that you feel empowered in the kitchen. I don't want to just, if the recipe is not good and then you struggle and you're like, oh, I don't like Ayurvedic food, and it's like
Yeah, I know what you mean. Creating a balanced family or party menu. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, this is a question that always comes up in our classes, because people are like, well, I have a family of 4 and my husband has 1 dosha and I have another dosha and my kids are constantly different doshas. So how do you cook for everybody's doshas? So it's actually more simple than you can imagine. Again, we're not cooking predominantly for the dosha, we're cooking seasonal food. So the meal will be balanced, first of all, if it's aligned with the season. Not just seasonal ingredients like what you find on the farmer's market, but also seasonal in terms of the qualities, predominant qualities of food. So in the winter or in the cold season, we need more warming foods, more cooked foods, so the like warming spices, like cinnamon and cumin and the kalonji seeds and cloves. There's so many ginger. There's so many warming spices. In the winter, in the summer, we need more cooling spices and more cooling, hydrating foods. So that's one thing that can be balancing. Another way to balance a meal for different people is to include all 6 tastes of food. So in Ayurveda, a meal becomes tridoshic when it has all the 6 tastes: sweet, sour, salty, pungent, bitter, and astringent. So if all the 6 tastes are predominant, that meal by definition is tridashic. And then you can increase, like in certain seasons, we need more of certain tastes, and you can have that predominant. And then one thing that really works well also at our restaurant, because everybody comes with their own doshas and their own imbalances, and so some people really need more pungency. They need very spicy food. So we have a hot sauce, or we have a chutney that has chili in it. And some people really cannot have very spicy foods. So you can moderately spice your main dishes, but then offer hot sauce on the side. So that those who need extra pungency can just add the sauce and be happy. So, and also like different portioning. So let's say somebody is predominantly kapha dosha, they don't need a lot of grains, they need more vegetables. So you would serve them a little less grain and a little more vegetables. So that's another way to make it balanced.
Beautiful. There's so many options.
Yeah, it's actually easy. The Ayurvedic principles, sometimes they may seem like rules, and it's like, oh my God, I have to follow so many rules and so limiting. But actually, these are rules that lead to freedom. They free you to be the best version of yourself, and they free you from the things you don't need in your life, the foods or the habits that you don't really need. So when you grasp the essential principles, that makes so much sense. That was the first thing when I first started studying Ayurveda. I was like, wow, this makes so much sense. How didn't I think about this? So it makes sense. It's very easy to apply. And once you grasp the essence, then it becomes natural. It becomes second nature to live in line with Ayurveda.
Yeah. Well, what you were saying about your intuition and trusting it when you're making recipes and people eating in an intuitive way as well. It just means that you got to spend a little bit more time for a moment. For me, it's just put your hand on your stomach and just see how you feel, and then eat accordingly. So it doesn't take a lot of time, but it does take a little bit of awareness.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I wish we could learn in school how to spend time on self-awareness, because we're spending time on so many unnecessary things. So why don't we just spend time? It's like, what do we spend your time on if you don't spend 10 seconds to connect with yourself and how you feel right now? Like, you're making time for something else that maybe it's not necessary.
Yeah. Well, in India, in the yogic schools, Vedic schools, they spend time on knowing yourself. They take the children, they're 5 and 6 and 7, and they learn about svadhyaya, knowing yourself, understanding yourself, who you are, all of these things. And they're taught all of these things. So by the time they're sort of 15, 16, they're very mature, because they're like, well, I understand who I am. But like you said, we don't teach those things. We teach people to have a good time and have leisure and study hard and those kind of things, but nothing to do, and it's all outward. It has nothing to do with going inward. So, and people are craving that. They're craving to have greater intuition and understand themselves better, understand other people better. But I like what you said about relationship with food. If you understand your relationship with food, and most people's relationship with food isn't great, and understand that it's like a friend that you're having a relationship with, you'll respect it more and treat it like a sacred thing, and you'll spend some time in silence and take more care of it in awareness, which is great advice for people. Yeah.
Thank
so
you.
much to,
We need more people like you. We need more teachers like you.
I
Increase
studied.
the awareness.
I'm like you. We're just people who bring the knowledge, give it to people, and then they do what they want with it. But we definitely need this kind of more of this kind of teaching. So I mean, we could talk for hours, but I want to tell people, go get this book. We even cook a lot of the dishes, Jaymar does, in, what do you call it? Pressure cooker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as well. And it's actually very quick. So
Yes.
she's adapted a lot of these recipes and makes them in a pressure cooker, which really goes even quicker. Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
So we're gonna come visit you in New York for sure. What's your restaurant called?
It's called Divya's Kitchen. It's on First Avenue and First Street in Manhattan, Lower East Side. Very easy to get there.
Yeah,
And
beautiful. We're gonna be there for sure.
please come. Yes, please
Yeah,
come. And
we
I hope
will.
to visit you in LA as well.
Absolutely. Anytime you're out here, come and visit us. We'd love to have you in Jaymar's kitchen.
Thank you. I
All
can't
right.
wait to meet you in person. Yes, thank you so much.
Take good care. Lots of love.
Thank you.
Bye.
Namaste. Bye-bye.